Well, here it is, another week. We are excited to be with you as we go inside EMS. I'm excited to be here. I know that my partner is excited to be here. And everyone, look, if you're watching us on EMS One Video on YouTube, you can see him yourself. He looks excited or constipated. Kelly Grayson, KG, how are you?
I'm good. They're both the same look. Sometimes
Is
I'm
it the
excited
same
to be
look?
constipated. Sometimes I'm so constipated it excites me. I just,
You know, it's tough but it's good that you have those feelings, right? It's good that you're
yeah.
able to ascertain either way. Me, I would just look confused. I would just look kind of a little bit off-putting.
So
Uh,
how do we distinguish that from non-constipated and normal?
oh, I don't know, man, but I think maybe you should be off-putting. But
Pretty much look confused all the time, right? So
I think so. So, Kelly, I think we got a really important topic to talk about today. I mean, you and I have spent a lot of time in our life as podcast hosts, 10 years, 600 shows, 2 million listens, talking about the need to ensure that we transition ourselves to take better care of our workforce,
yeah,
right? When we think about the burnout, when we think about the depression, and when we think about the suicide, I mean, let's not gloss over what it really is. And it
yeah.
seems that a lot of people take the steps to get to that end of, maybe smoking a little bit of weed, or maybe stealing some morphine or some fentanyl, and then they start to abuse drugs, and now or they're abusing prescription, whatever it is, right? I mean, we
Yeah.
know that this is the path. And then eventually they get to a point of they just can't take it anymore. The pain is too much, and they're trying to stop the pain, and they take their own life. And our friends over there at the Code Green campaign are very, very, they're very, very resourceful, and they have a lot of things that if you're in this boat as we talk about it, those are the people that you need to get in touch with right now. But
Yeah.
we are joined by Willie Doan. Willie is a paramedic. He is the Academy coordinator for Newcastle, Delaware. And Willie is a recovering alcoholic, Kelly. And
Welcome to the show, Willie.
he's
Thank you,
going to
guys.
take us down the path of how he got there, and then how he got himself on the right road, and what it means. But Willie, we'll give you the opportunity to kind of share your story. But thanks for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to chat with you guys and talk about some recovery stuff.
Well, of course it is. I mean, look who we are, right? I mean, you've got to be impressed being here. So
Ignore him, Willie. It's just
I'm
when
just
he goes
teasing.
off on his ego trips.
That's
So
okay.
it's funny, Willie, is that when we first started the show 10 years ago, there were only two people that listened, Kelly's mom and my mom, and both of them passed away. So really nobody was listening. So we've gotten there. But anyway, so, go ahead.
My mom's already, she was asking me last night, how can I listen? Can I listen in when you guys are doing it? I was like, I'll talk to Chris. I'll figure it out. So
You can't. The show will probably be usually what we do is we record a couple of weeks before, so this show will probably be out week after next. So
cool.
we'll keep you posted. What's your mom's name? Let's say hello to her.
Heather.
All right, Heather, Miss
Heather.
Hi, Heather.
We're here with your son.
Pop popcorn. Have a watch party.
We'll make sure he gets home safe. Okay, how about that?
We got to give my stepmom some love too down in Texas. Hey, Katie.
Oh, do that, man. We're in Texas.
Hi, Katie.
They're right down near Beaumont, Texas. When I fly in, I fly into Houston. It's about an hour and a half south of there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're friends, a lot of friends down there in Texas for us. But so anyway, Kelly, I'm Willie, you kind of heard the setup, right?
Yeah.
So the setup was stress, anxiety, depression, substance abuse. And then from there, where does it go? So I guess the first question I want to ask you is, how did you realize, or what took you to the point of having an alcohol problem, even before you realized that it was a problem?
I think for me, I think genetics play a big role in mine, and at least the way that my brain is wired. I started drinking at a fairly young age. I was 14 when I had my first drink, and I remember in high school, I always drank a little bit more than others. I'd be, drinking straight Jack and people would think that's weird, or, you know, drinking more beers than my other friends would be. And it kind of just steadily progressed. I think whether, being a first responder or any other job, I think I would have ended up in the same position, and I would have been in some type of rehab or jail cell or worse.
Yeah. Let me follow
Did,
up, Kelly, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Usually Kelly and I go back and forth, Willie, but I just want to follow up on what you said. So as you now entered EMS, right, and as you started to see the things that you would do and live the life of a paramedic, how did that compound the problem?
Yeah, so I think it helped and it hurt. So even in the worst of my addiction, I still had a very strong sense of duty. Um, so, there would be sometimes, guys, where I'd schedule myself to work a couple weeks in a row and be like, hey, I need to get off the sauce. I need to, be at work, doing what I love. And I would use that as kind of like a Band-Aid, if you will, to stay sober. However, obviously, anybody who gets into this business, you're going to have bad calls. And I would use EMS whether it was a bad call, whether it was, resuscitating, successfully resuscitating somebody and then walking out of the hospital. If whether it was good or bad, I would use that as an excuse. I deserve a drink. So I could definitely see how EMS may have expedited my disease and getting me to where it became a problem and I couldn't function anymore and where I needed to go to rehab.
Yeah. Willie, was there a particular episode or event or even a memory where you can recall when it became clear to you, wow, I've got a problem and I'm not in control of this anymore?
Yeah, so that's funny. When you're in it, you don't really think it's a problem.
No, you don't. Not with depression either.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't really think it's a problem when you're in it. I didn't realize, I don't think I fully accepted that I was an alcoholic or that I had an actual issue until I had gotten to California and gotten to rehab, and they had educated me about, and you can call it a disease, you can call it a condition. I don't really care. It is what it is. Until they educated me about how, your brain reacts to substance abuse. And it was probably a couple weeks in, I definitely agreed that I had a drinking problem. And, by the time of the end of my time at Dedicato Treatment Center, I was telling them, I was introducing myself as, hi, I'm Willie, I'm a recovering alcoholic. So no, I didn't even think on the way out there, flying from Delaware to California.
Was there an event that spurred you to go to rehab? How did that come about?
Yeah, so it was almost 2 years ago now. We'll say about 604 days to be exact. It was my 28th birthday. I had been on a couple-day bender, and I ended up getting arrested that day for suspicion of DUI. I have no recollection of it. I still don't. I woke up in my parents' guest bedroom, probably about 2 or 3 in the morning. I got arrested sometime in the afternoon. And it wasn't my first DUI. I had another one 6 years before that. So I woke up, I walked downstairs, I woke my parents up. I asked them, how I'd gotten there or what had happened. And my mom said that I had been arrested. And I was like, you have no idea why you're arrested. Your mind starts going crazy, wondering what could have happened. And thank God I was stopped at a red light and had fallen asleep. I had been arrested for suspicion of DUI, and they'd picked me up from the troop and brought me home. And I asked her straight up, I said, Mom, what's wrong with me? And she started crying and she said, you're an alcoholic. And I asked her, I said, can you help me? Because it was, damage mode, damage prevention mode. How can I keep my mom from not crying sad tears for me? How can I keep my family from not worrying about me?
Yeah.
And how can I keep my job? I love this job more than I love probably anything else.
Yeah,
That's
but with
got to
that
be
too,
a huge blow, for your mom to hit you with that. I mean, that would wake me the heck up.
well, somebody had to say it. Somebody had to say it too,
Yeah,
right? So,
somebody had to.
but
It was probably tough for his mom to do that.
sure. let me take a couple steps back with you, Willie. So obviously, you talk about you were on a couple day bender. You had to be able, I mean, you probably were a functional alcoholic on the job as well, no?
So I, if I had to work a day work, I wouldn't drink before then. However, if I had to work a night work, like as long as I could have, the rule was when I started, it was like, hey, you just need 10 hours before. You need 10 hours before your shift, you got to stop drinking. So, and like I said earlier in the podcast, I had that huge sense of duty. Now, looking back, I'm sure that it negatively impacted me. It had to have. I was reading something today. I was looking up, heart rate variability. I just got a new watch to track a bunch of measurements. And it was saying that drinking can affect your heart rate variability for up to 5 days. I'm sure it can, I've read other things that, you'll be dehydrated for 72 hours following a large drinking episode. So I'm sure that, yeah, I was some type of functioning alcoholic.
So, well, and with that though, I mean, you talk about, and this is something I've never really understood and I didn't like. They talk about 10 hours before your shift, stop drinking. But man, depending on what you're doing before that 10 hours, that may not be enough, man.
Yeah,
And
still
I've
been
never
drunk
understood,
after 10 hours stopping
I've
drinking.
never understood that 10-hour thing, Willie.
No,
So
I agree with both of you guys. I think it's a, it's a very, I think it's a dangerous rule. It's a dangerous game to play. You got it. Not only your life, but more importantly, your patients' lives, your partners' lives. It's a risky game to play. And it's hard to, even, sit here and talk to you guys about, I was playing it.
Willie, were there times at work when you were, in the middle of a call or after a call thinking, wow, I'm not my best. This is affecting me. Any instances like that?
I think there were definitely times where it was like, I must not have gotten enough sleep last night, or I must have a stomach bug. It was never out. It was never
Rationalizing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was never alcohol. But looking back, I'm sure it always, the majority of the times it was probably alcohol. And I've still functioned as as a paramedic. It's really sad, and it's really also inspiring to think about, because I never have to be in that position again. I want my patients to get 100% of me every time, every single call, every patient, and that's what they deserve. That's what they're paying for.
yeah, I agree with you 100%. So we know that you had the incident, your mom, you're an alcoholic. Can you help me? So you go out to California, you start to do recovery. I hear that that's not an easy thing to do, because more or less you're going to go cold turkey in the time frame that you're here. Can you tell us a little bit about your first day? What was that like for you? Now you're in a different state. You're trying to get things, the ship righted. I mean, what was the first day, first couple days like out there?
Yeah. So since we're going from Delaware to California, we had to stop in Arizona to get there. And I'd like to also mention that I didn't just, randomly end up at Dedicado either. Could I talk about that for a second, Chris?
Sure. Go ahead.
So Newcastle County has a partnership with Responder Health. Have you guys ever heard of them?
Yeah.
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 So it's pretty much a hotline for first responders. And we had called them and we talked to their CEO, Sean Riley. But he's been an angel. He's helped me so much throughout this entire process. And he recommended Dedicado. They are they have a very close connection with first responders. Dr. Keith Marshall, who's out there, his father was a Philadelphia paramedic. His brother's a Philly firefighter. And they have this. They also have a partnership with Responder Health. So that was what kind of why we chose to go to Dedicado. As I was saying, you have to fly to Arizona, pick up a flight, and then go to California. I got to Arizona, dude. I would say the majority of the times I've cried in my life have been happy moments. I don't cry very often, but I was just crying, just very somber and sad. And I called a very good friend of mine, and she was like, you just got to do what you said you were going to do it. You got to do it. I got back on the plane. I read a book called Fearless about Adam Brown. Have you guys ever heard of that book?
No.
No.
It was I just picked up, I had a bunch of books in my house, just picked that one up. And that was, it ended up being about a Navy SEAL who struggled with addiction. And I had no idea when I picked it up. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I got to the rehab. It was a very nice residence, mansion near the Sierra Madre Mountains. It had a pool, had a chef that cooked lunch and dinner. It was kind of like, it sounds like I'm describing a vacation. However, there was a lot of hard work. The first thing I remember from walking in there, just kind of being scared. It's like you're going on your first day of school, your first day at a new job. And also, I just heard yelling, and I was like, oh man, this is like one of those psych places that I pick patients up from all the time. Like, this is one of those mental health, like they just, who am I going to be, going through this education process with? And I walked downstairs where the yelling's coming from, and it was another patient, and he was yelling because the Cowboys were doing poorly. He's a big Cowboys fan, and he's from Texas. He's a first responder out in Texas, and I was brainwashed as a child. I grew up as a Cowboys fan myself, so we bonded over that. He took me under his wing, and we ordered some hamburgers, and we talked about life, and we talked about the issues that alcohol had caused us. And he was just he was there for me, kind of like he was a couple years older than me, and kind of took me under his wing and did the whole big brother thing. And I'll always be super grateful for him.
Very awesome.
The Cowboys put a beat down on the Giants yesterday.
So let's go ahead and move along. Let's go ahead and move along and talk about something else.
I had one question now. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you a Giants fan?
Let's move along.
Anyway, I was going to ask, did you have any major physical withdrawal symptoms? You mentioned you pretty much drank every day except for the days you had day shift.
Yeah.
How was the physical detox for
Yeah,
you?
so just a lot of nausea. My hands were very shaky. And I would have episodes of getting pretty sweaty. That was pretty much it for me. I definitely wasn't comfortable for probably the first, after 5 days, most of that stuff wore off. They were also giving me low doses of Ativan to help with those symptoms and prevent any type of, seizure. That, the anxiety was through the roof, and I'm not generally somebody who has a lot of anxiety. I did just get arrested for the second time though, and I'm 2,000 something miles away from home. So,
but it was still the chemical addiction that was, coming off that, which is really causing that challenge for you. But, so you now get into this process of recovery, and is it a month, 5 weeks? How long is it?
So I stayed there for a month, and it was hard work. I'd wake up at 4:30 so I could have some time to myself. I would do some. They had a notebook about this big, so it was the 3-inch binder for those of you who are just listening in. And I went through 2 of those, and it was all recovery stuff, recovery relapse plans. I wrote an autobiography to try and figure out, where these problems may have started, and what we could do to help me. And I would work on that till about 8:30. We would have a small group. Then at 9 o'clock, we'd have a 9:30. We'd have a 2-hour group, break for lunch, get some PT in the garage, and have another 2-hour group in the afternoon, and then an AA or NA meeting at 7 o'clock that night. And in between there were one-on-one sessions. That's what a normal day was. And it was set to be, I believe, 28 days, Chris.
Yeah.
And I got to the 28th day, and I told Dr. Marshall, I'm like, yo, brother, I'm really scared to go home.
Sure.
I don't feel like I'm ready to go home. This has been an issue. I've been drinking for the past 14 years. I've only been here for like 28 days. I don't think we've done enough work. I don't think I've put in enough work. It scares me to think about myself being being out in California. They have, alcohol in the grocery stores, or being out at a restaurant by myself or something like that. So he was like, it's funny that you mentioned that, because we're offering you a scholarship for all your hard work. We're giving you a second month here for free. All we ask is that you help out around the house a little bit, which I was already doing. And, so I ended up staying there for a total of 60 days.
Very cool. Very cool.
Around 45 days, I started getting a little bit antsy, being like, I think 45 was a good one for me. I'd always, that alcoholic part in my mind, I'd always rather overdo it. So we did 60.
Question for you. Do you feel now that you're in recovery, do you feel like your attitude and your perception of addiction and alcoholism in your patients has shifted? Do you approach them with a new eye, maybe more so than you had in the past?
So I think it definitely buys me some street credit with them. If I can, pull out my 18-month token and be like, hey, I might not know the exact, situation. We might not have gone through the same exact situation. However, it's like my buddy Jerry says. He says we felt the similar emotions. So I think it buys me some capital with them, and I think, usually, maybe there's ones that didn't want to go to the hospital. I might end up getting them to go to the hospital and utilizing some of the resources that we have at the hospital, to get them back on that track to recovery that day. I think I always looked at them as, how I looked at. I think deep down I knew I had an issue, and I've had family members who had struggled with addiction in the past too. So I don't think it changed the way of like how much I wanted to help them. I've always wanted to help anybody with an addiction, or really anybody with any type of illness. But I think it definitely did buy me some credit with them and some capital.
Very cool. So let me give you this, Willie. I'm going to give you a very important responsibility here, that, there are people out there who maybe not know that they're depressed and have a substance issue, or have a alcohol or a drug issue. And coming from the side of your expertise and the experience that got you to where you are, Kelly, we want to turn over the mic to you, and we want you to really to kind of talk to those people and, inspire them to look in the mirror, or whatever it is that you probably know the words better than me, and give them a little bit of inspiration.
Yeah, guys. So I was one of those guys who I remember having this conversation with my buddy at the local bar Grotto's, the local pizza joint in Delaware. We were drinking some cold tall Miller Lights, and just pretty much we had a lot of issues we were talking about. And we were like, we're never going to stop drinking. And that was my attitude. I loved drinking, big party guy. And I never saw I would have never dreamed that I would be sitting in this chair talking to Chris and Kelly about sobriety and recovery. I promise you that life is better this way. The first few months of recovery, I was living in fear, that I didn't want to go back to my old ways. Now I live in excitement, enthusiasm for each day. And it's not that I don't look back as much. I look forward to this day, treating this day correctly. I look forward to treating tomorrow correctly, and just really getting out of life everything that is, owed to us and that's owed to me. It took me a little bit to buy in. I didn't start feeling physically better, probably like really better, until probably the 7-8 month mark. And that's when I bought in and I said, hey, this isn't going to be as big of it's always going to be a struggle for the rest of my life, but it's not going to be as big of a struggle. I enjoy my life now. I have joy now. I have hope now. I don't think I told Chris or Kelly, I've been diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. I definitely think that I have some pretty bad days with depression every once in a while. When I was drinking, they were all the time. I felt depressed on a daily basis. I would say I have a depression day, or a day where I just get hard time getting out of bed, maybe once every 2 to 3 months now. That's crazy. It used to be every day. It's once every 2 months. I don't feel anxiety. I take action towards the things that I felt anxiety about in the past. And I haven't had any type of, episodes that could be considered any type of PTSD episodes since I've had one since I've stopped drinking. So I think my life is exponentially better now than it was before. And it just keeps getting better.
Well, I've got one to tag on before we transition to talking about the academy. Chris mentioned, he gave you the mic to inspire your fellow EMTs and people who may be struggling with addiction. And you mentioned that in rehab, you wrote an autobiography.
Yeah.
Ever thought about getting that published?
I haven't opened it up. It's still kind of scary to even read, but yeah, that would be something, maybe adding the perspective on, from, my perspective now, even. I know it's not too much farther.
That's a voice that other EMTs and other people in general who are struggling with addiction probably need to hear. And Chris and I could probably steer you down the path toward self-publishing a book and maybe getting that spreading that message to more than just our podcast listeners.
I would love that opportunity.
And then the other thing that you've got to think about, and we're going to transition to talk about your academy and, pimp that a little bit for you, see if we can get you some students over there. But one of the other things that you have to be able to think about on the road of being an instructor is becoming a motivational speaker about it as well. And one of the things that I tell my coaching clients all the time is you have a gift. You have a gift that if you don't share with others, you do them a disservice. And I believe that, right? Because we all have something special that we've developed throughout our careers that have allowed us to become who we are, right? And you've got that as well. So, but let's go ahead and transition. So,
Hey, Chris and Kelly, I had a couple thoughts real quick.
Sure.
Off of what you guys were saying. As I was giving you guys that little hit of hope, and that little bit of joy, that life does get better when you get sober. Last year was one of the worst year of my life in terms of people that I lost who I care about. I got home from rehab in March. So over a year and a half ago-ish. I got home from rehab in March, and in April, one of my best friends who I'd just gone on vacation with, who was also in EMS, overdosed on heroin and passed away. 4 months later, 4 or 5 months later, my best friend's dad, who I grew up with, I had two best friends, Costa and Aaron. I grew up with them since we were kids. He called me up one morning and said his dad was bleeding from his mouth and needed some assistance. So I went over there and I carried him out of the house. And unfortunately, he was like another father to me as well. He had esophageal varices and he passed away in the ICU that month. And then this March, one of my best friends who grew up with Aaron Costa and I and a bunch of other people, he was a Marine and also a Philadelphia police officer, took his own life. So this stuff's very serious to me. And I just lost 3 of my closest friends this past year and a half to this stuff. So it's very serious. It can take you out. And you guys just heard me 5 minutes ago, probably less than 5 minutes, say how much joy and happiness it's brought to my life, even given all that loss. I think that's profound. So I just wanted to get that out there. I'm in the no matter what club. So no matter what, I don't pick up, and it's been working for me.
Good.
Very cool.
Good.
That's great. And that's really awesome. And unfortunately now you've taken your academy time away.
That's okay.
I'm teasing you, Willie. So hit us a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there at Newcastle and, one of the premier EMS systems in the United States, and a little bit about the work you're doing in the academy.
Yeah, so I'm the academy coordinator. I'm up here with, I have a sergeant who's the overall supervisor of the academy on a daily basis. But anyhow, every year, we started this back in 2014. I was actually in our first academy that we did this way. We recruit any, and we call it the 0 to hero. Are you guys familiar with that term?
Yes.
So there's no pre-qualifications needed besides you need a driver's license and a diploma. We do extensive background process. There is a physical fitness test and an acuplacer test. And there's oral boards, and then we pick from there. And we generally have anywhere from, I would say, 16 to 22-ish students that we put through medic school each year. We pay you to go to medic school. You get benefits. Your pension starts. Your uniforms are paid for. All your books are paid for. It's your job for around 13 months or so to go to school and focus on becoming a paramedic. And we provide you any resources that we can. But before we started our Zoom, I'd stayed after. I'm still at the academy. I'd stayed after to work with some of our students on EKGs. We run it paramilitary, so there is like the uniforms. Our boots are shined. Initially, we have the shirts military pressed, and we start out the first 3 months or so our BLS, and it's Monday through Friday. You get nationally registered as an EMT, and then we transition into the ALS program. And during the ALS program, we are in class Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, and they are out on some type of clinical, whether it's in the local ERs or riding with our field training officers in Newcastle County on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So last year we had, I believe it was 8. I wasn't a part of last year's academy. We had 18.
Well, you had things going on.
Yeah, I had a couple of things going on. What a privilege and opportunity even to be in this position in the academy. I'm just extremely grateful. But last year we had 18 people who started our program, and all 18 are nationally registered paramedics.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's great to see, agencies investing in their people and taking the steps necessary to make sure that paramedic school is as stress-free and not a burden on people going through their training. That's what we're trying to build up here in St. Lawrence County. Same sort of thing. We're going to try to do it in a little quicker, but same sort of thing. And congratulations to you guys, and I applaud your efforts.
Thank you, Kelly. I'd love to talk to you more about it sometime.
Oh man, come pick my brain anytime, or come listen to me cry on your shoulder as I think about coamps stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Kelly, let's go ahead and give us the standard closing as we move along to next week.
That's right. Well, look, guys, you've heard Willie's story. I urge you all, if you're suffering from addiction, take a page from his book. It's not weakness to admit you have a problem. It's strength, reaching out and saying I have a problem and taking the steps necessary to deal with it. And I hope you're inspired by Willie's story as much as Chris and I were. And we hope to talk to you guys next week. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes. And if you have ideas for future shows, or if you'd like to share your story, email us at theshow@ems1.com. And for myself, co-host Chris Cebollero and Willie Doan, thanks for tuning in to Inside EMS. Catch y'all next week.